find out more details to that story when we get there. From Kano State, NMA resumes full services. On electricity, FG moves to end incessant grid collapse. There's a meme going on where they say nobody asks the national grid, and then the national grid, what do you do for a living? Said, I collapse for a living. All right, from the health sector, we'll take this one from the federal government, where FG announces free cesarean sessions for Nigerian women. On natural disaster, Kalu demands data on displaced Nigerians. On economy, Nigeria undergoing research through fuel subsidy removal. A statement by Soludo. Remember that we are open for advert placements, events coverage, news events coverage, personality, society and political interviews, product, service promotions and commercials. And you can connect with us on all of our IT and socials: Facebook, YouTube, Atlantic Television Network, Instagram, TikTok, Atlantic TV Network 1, and on X, we Atlantic TV Net. You can also watch us live on our website at www.atlanticnetwork.tv. My name is Anidoye Jackson. We'll go on a short break. After that, the show begins. Please stay with us.
From the line across the ocean to the land beyond the mountains, through the Sahara, we bring on-spot news, live analysis, expert discussions on trending stories in politics, business, socio-economy, sports, and documentaries. So catch all the updates on the happenings around the globe. Stay focused on the fact today. Only on ATN.
Every day our lives are changed by history.
We are one people, all of us.
Leaders, politics.
Nobody's ambition is what's the blood.
I have fought very firmly.
Natural occurrence, war, and the world economy.
I belong to everybody, and I belong to nobody.
ATN covers it all on ATN Politics today.
People into the country.
Honourable
You human trafficker.
Honourable they are not picking our calls. They made up their minds.
So no agreement with the EU, but
right, thank you so much for staying right here with us. Quickly, I will introduce my guest with me in the studio. I have Loveday Oporum, and Loveday Oporum is the coordinator of the Agri-Graduate Association of Nigeria, Rivers State Chapter, and he is a public affairs analyst. Good morning, Loveday.
Good morning, Ini. Nice to be here this morning. You're looking amazing as usual.
I was expecting that. Well, you look good yourself.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining down here.
Thank you.
All right, let's move on to our first story. It's coming from Edo State. The outgoing Edo State Governor, Godwin Obaseki, stated his willingness to cooperate with the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission after his tenure, expressing confidence in his clean record. Now, he was speaking at the Edo Best National Results Sharing Session in Abuja. Obaseki highlighted significant achievements, particularly in the education sector. You know, he dismissed concerns over opposition that was generated petition and potential political persecution, emphasizing that he is unafraid and ready to submit to the EFCC if required. Obaseki pointed out his administration's focus on meaningful reforms, including enrolling over 400,000 children in school and launching practical training programs in technical colleges to equip students with skills for self-sufficiency. In other words, he was blowing his trumpet. He criticized opponents as bitter and envious and stressed the importance of leaders prioritizing public welfare over personal interest. Additionally, Obaseki opposed handing unity schools over to states, suggesting that they be managed by those capable of meeting global education standards. And he advocated for elite media merit-based schools that foster exceptional talent, drawing inspiration from India's model, where unity schools graduates lead global companies. And he concluded that the priority should be the quality of output and not the ownership. It doesn't matter who owns unity schools. The important part of it is that the children should be well equipped to what they need, the knowledge and practical skills that they need to meet global practice. All right, Loveday, a lot was mentioned here, down from his bragging, or should I say bragging rights now, where he was blowing his trumpets about some of his achievements while he was still governor, and the fact that no matter what the opposition says, he can face the EFCC.
Yeah, I think that's, for me, I want to commend Obaseki for his boldness and the kind of confidence that he's demonstrating. That's why we always advocate for public office holders to always know that a day will come. After transition, you may be called upon to come and render an account of stewardship, or a particular government may decide to probe into what you have done. So his level of confidence is quite commendable. That means he has record, he's sure of what he has done and what he can do. Is
there any political holder, office holder, that is not confident?
Of course, you know.
Even the ones that were caught committing crime, they are confident. Have you seen anyone that's not confident in front of the camera?
Yeah, from the tune of Obaseki's statement, you discover that there is no iota of, based from my own assessment, now there is no iota of fear, no iota of intimidation, unlike others that will start, raising alarm, calling for different people, different groups to come and intervene, that they are witch hunting them and all of that. But Obaseki is, offering himself. He's ready to answer the call whenever it's being done. So that is how it should be. Once you lead, without any form of skeleton or cockroach, like we'll always say, in your cupboard, then you don't have any reason to fear. And the only person that can boldly stand like he's standing now is someone that has led or that is leading with a mindset that tomorrow I can be called upon. The office I'm occupying is not a permanent office, it's not my personal office, it's the people's office. I'm only privileged to serve in that capacity. So whatever I'm doing, whenever I'm being called upon, I should be able to also answer my people. So for me, there's nothing to worry about or to be scared about from Obaseki's
statement. Okay, let's go to the Unity School now, the part where he talks about the ownership of the Unity School and the recommendations of it being owned by private individuals or the government.
Yeah, trying to hand over or advocate or suggest that the government should manage the unity school. For me, I don't subscribe to that.
Why?
A little, it doesn't call for a very tedious or elongated analysis or a very difficult thing to assess, because from what we're already seeing in the government-owned schools and institutions, you can also attest, to the fact that once Unity School is being allowed to be managed by the government, we are not going to achieve anything different from what we're already seeing. So, for me, I subscribe to the opinion or philosophy of, people that are well-to-do, philanthropies, organizations that understands the concept of Unity School and that have flair or passion for education to manage it. And of course, unity, just like the name implies, shouldn't be a government thing. Once it's a government thing, where is the unity coming from? It will be politicized at the end of the day. And then those that are supposed to benefit from the concept of that Unity School may be politically, moved aside. And then by so doing, the core essence or the purpose or the objective of the Unity School has already been defeated. So for me, the Unity School should be a collaborative thing. It should be a partnership stuff. The government will have some percentage. The public, the private sector will also have, some percentage, so that those that are supposed to be beneficiaries of the Unity School will be targeted and then will benefit accordingly.
It beats my imagination each time people say if something is handled by the government, it will not be handled well. It's better for private individuals to handle it. And we see it playing out in the petroleum sector. It's very funny that we have a private individual who was able to set up a refinery that is already functional within that short period of time. And for us, it has been years for us to fix our refinery. Why is that usually the case? Talking about them politicizing it, is politics not supposed to be something that would be beneficial to the people? Definitely, that's how it should be. But experience has a lot to do when it comes to one's perception and conviction. Over the years, in Nigeria, we have seen politics to be a thing of, permit me to use the word, a kind of foul play, kind of that is full of, trickery, manipulations, and all of that. That's an average Nigerian. That's where we look at politics. But politics is not supposed to be all about that. Even if at some point there will be some form of manipulation, but the manipulation should be geared towards advancing the status or the status quo, improving on the livelihood. So when you're bringing in manipulation, that manipulation should be on the positive aspect, in quote, and not on the negative. But what we see in our system is a kind of politics that, downgrade the people's interest, turn down the people's opinion, and then they sit at the top there, comes up with policies and resolve, and then impose it. Let me use that word, impose it on the people. So you don't have any choice. You just accept. But because some other times it's the people. It's the people that are in charge of these facilities or institutions that are usually not doing their jobs. Sure. And these people are individuals. Because when we say private individual, it seems like it's a god. They will come from they are now coming from heaven. These are still people working with the government, not carrying out their responsibility. Yeah, you see, that's the lacuna when you now analyze Nigerian governance or governance in Nigeria. Once an individual enters into a public office like government, an individual handling a government portfolio, they see it as it is our turn. This is the nation's money. It's not my own. So we need to look at for people that are highly patriotic. Patriotism has a major role to play here. Once you assign a responsibility to an individual that sees public office as an opportunity for him to collect, to take part of his own share of the national cake, there is no how the actual thing can be done. Just like you said, permit me to use the medical sector as a case. So we have heard of course, I've also experienced. We have heard of situations, we have seen cases where doctors employing government, engage in government hospitals, have their own private facilities running and functioning effectively more than that of the government. Now, some of the facilities, they are supposed to even recommend to the government and follow up, ensure that the government sets up those facilities in the government hospitals. They will not. They will just say it passively, but they make those facilities, whatever it will take them to make it available in their private hospital, they will do that. Now, once you come to the government hospital, technically, they will refer you
to some of those private, not knowing that he's also there. So like you said, it's an individual thing, but the problem is the government now. Now, the government is not actually checkmating. So even the head sees himself as somebody that has been given an opportunity to also share from that national take. So patriotism is a very key thing. It's not a good thing for us as a country, but over time we have seen these things play out. So talking about the unity school, except Nigeria will change tomorrow. Right. Except the philosophies of our leaders will change on how they manage public institutions and all of that. Otherwise, I don't think handing over the unity school to government will do us any good.
Okay, I had more to say about health, but we'll talk about health, and then I'll bring up that question and we'll talk extensively about that. Okay. Let's go to Kano State. The Kano State chapter of the Nigerian Medical Association, that's NMA, has decided to resume full services at Murtala Mohammed Specialist Hospital following mediation by Governor Abba Yusuf in a dispute involving an alleged assault on a doctor by the Commissioner for Humanitarian Affairs, Aisha Abdullahi. The NMA had previously withdrawn services and threatened a strike if the Commissioner was not dismissed within 48 hours. NMA Chairman Dr. Abdurrahman Ali stated that after meeting with the Governor, who confirmed receiving investigative committee's report and promised justice, the association agreed to resume services to allow for further negotiation. Governor Yusuf had appealed to the NMA to avoid endangering the lives of over 20 million Kano residents by striking, emphasizing the government's commitment to doctors' welfare and the importance of allowing the investigation to proceed. He assured that any official found guilty would face consequences and apologized on behalf of the government, urging the NMA to prioritize patient care. When they say, you know this Nigerian proverb of when two elephants are fighting, you know who suffers.
Grass, yeah.
Now, looking at this scenario of the health worker that was allegedly assaulted, and then the doctors getting angry and saying we're going on strike if nothing is done about it, that statement of we are going on strike, human beings are the ones who are going to be affected.
Sure.
People who are already in these hospitals, people who would have emergency cases at that during that period.
Exactly.
Yeah, but let's just get your overall thoughts on this story and the whole scenario so far.
You see, I want to the language of Kano State Governor for me is worth it. Some persons will say it to be a bit harsh. You know, at times I wonder the kind of position our doctors take when it comes to some issues that has to do with them. I want to still bring in patriotism here. If our doctors have the interest and they are very much conscious about the life of the masses, the people God has, you know, entrusted into their hands to save as human beings. God is, right? That's what they said. But that the doctors cure, something like that. Now, those God has, you know, put into their hand to manage to cure. If the doctors value that particular, if they value their office and understand that this is a privilege too to find yourself in that particular ministry of saving lives, then you don't abuse it.
But don't you see the possibility of that just being an empty threat to call the attention of the government to?
But it's not just an empty threat. I don't see it to be an empty threat because it has happened, you know, in other states prior to this time. Once they release some of those statements, if the government doesn't stand on their toes, you see them embark on strike. And you can imagine the kind of ultimatum they gave: 48 hours, if nothing, you know, is being done or was done, that they will embark on strike. Why always strike? Why strike all the time? If all different other parastatals or profession start embarking on strike at any slightest misunderstanding, or well, how would the country, how are we going to move on in Nigeria? So they shouldn't, the doctors, the Nigerian Medical Association should not always be seeing themselves as a very important and insignificant, as a very important and significant sector of Nigerians' economy, or one of the institutions in Nigeria that the country cannot do without. Because once they begin to see themselves like that, the government may also devise another means to handle such situation. But I have a very critical point I want to make here. You know, I never knew this story would be coming up just after the previous one we we try to consider. You see, the issue of the private business we're talking about, I see it playing out too.
How?
Yes. Now, hope you are aware that whenever these doctors embark on strike, it only affects the government institution, that's the government hospitals. Public hospitals, those are the ones affected. The private hospitals are not affected. Are you aware of that? Now, you see, once this thing happen like this, they now technically, and we must start saying it the way it is, so that the doctors will also understand that Nigerians are saying, Nigerians are thinking, and we are analyzing what they are doing. They gradually and technically move some of the patients to their private hospitals. Otherwise, I see no reason why. Just an issue between a government, a commissioner, and then a doctor, one-on-one, and then the whole association wants to embark on strike, and human beings are in the hospital. I think it's high time our state government, will begin to deal decisively with this particular action.
Okay.
Once there is a misunderstanding, once there is an assault, there is an abuse, there should be other avenue to handle those particular issues, and not to put the entire lives of the whole state into danger.
Okay. For some of these public office holders who hold offices that have so much power, right? Recently, we had a case of, I'm very sure you saw that story of the lawmaker who had an issue with the driver, and that whole assault and all of that, when he threatened and said, "Oh, I'm going to make you disappear," like like these cartoons that we watch, and all of those statements. Don't you think there's supposed to be some sort of orientation? When you give a man power, you need to help him understand how to use that power.
Exactly.
And the reason some Nigerians feel like the reason that was addressed is because people spoke out. People spoke up. We had it trending online. Everybody was saying something about it, or the government should do something, and that's why. So don't you think this is just another step of them calling the attention of the government towards what has already happened? And let's also talk about the orientation aspect, giving these public office holders some sort of orientation so they know how to use the power that they have been given. Very,
very critical. I was to come to that. The issue of orientation is very critical. In fact, looking at what transpired there, it came to my mind, but somehow, in course of our discussion, is skipped. Thank God you're bringing it up. There is need for sensitization. There is need for orientation and reorientation. People, sometimes we don't know that we abuse privileges, we abuse power, and then we go out of our professional ethics to start doing what shouldn't, what the ears shouldn't hear. So there is need for orientation and reorientation. Calling for strike all the time by, some public office holders and organizations is not the best. If we had heard that, oh, this thing happened so and so time, and then NEMA or NMA has called the attention, has written to the state government, because it is the appointee of the state government that perpetrated that act, allegedly. If we had read that they have wrote to the state government and nothing was done, a follow-up letter was sent, nothing was done, then the issue of strike can now come up, because it will be obvious that they have been sidelined, they have been, relegated. What they are presenting to the government is not being given proper attention. Then we can, but something just happened. We have not read, we have not heard that there has been a kind within 48 hours. So there is need for orientation and reorientation. So the
orientation you're talking about is for the health workers now?
It should be general, public office holders. But in this case, we are using health workers based on the incident at Kano as a case study. Now, both for the public office holder, both for the health workers, and also those that are appointing them, in case like the case of the commissioner. Sometimes politicians too feel that they are so powerful, that 4 years or 3 years, as the case may be, that they have to be in office, is their time to exercise all the whole power they feel they have. So it's also something that should be looked into. Of course, some non-governmental organizations, humanitarian organizations, and all of that. No, at times the government organizes seminars for them, but the question is, some of those seminars, some of those symposiums, that are being organized, do they target some of the areas that needs to be addressed, or is also political aspect so that they will not...
if someone is exercising so much power, confidence, threatening the next person, it's for a reason. People don't just say things. It's because they know what they have. They know they know who they think they are, right?
Sure.
And they know what's backing them. And they know that nothing will happen. That's the painful part of it. The part where it seems like nothing will happen.
Something will happen, just that Nigerians, some persons feel so powerless even when they have points, even when they have some, good reason to buttress their point and to challenge some matters legally. Because of this mindset of nothing will happen.
Since you've talked about, sorry to cut you, but since you talked about legal action, let's go back to the time where we had the importation of bad fuel. And then I don't know if you were one of those Nigerians that were affected. Their engines were affected.
Then, no, that period I parked my car.
Oh, you had to park your car?
Yes.
Was it because of the bad fuel?
Definitely. Because
you had your car affected by that too?
No, I heard it
in the news.
I heard the news, yes. And then some of my friends will also complain. Some of them, their cars had issue. Then I wasn't prepared to start fixing my car. Then so what I did was to just park the car, and then I was using a public transport.
People went to court. Imagine people going to court for one person for one personality or one entity in different states. People were taking the matter to court. What happened at the end of the day?
Well, that's question for the judiciary, It's not
just question for if something has to do with you, it has to do with Nigerians. A lot of us were affected, so we're not just leaving it because we didn't get to hear a lot from that news. People have been asking what happened. People were using words on air that we had to be cautioning them not to use such words because they were saying heads should go in for it and things like that. But people were not compensated. They were not happy with the outcome. And then you're saying that with that scenario, Nigeria should still take things to court. Some people do not have that confidence anymore.
That's correct. But whether
I feel like you need to know somebody who knows somebody before you can go to court.
That's correct. But I also believe that it's always good to attempt. I don't like giving up in total. I love attempting. Let it be that I've attempted and it didn't work out. That something happened, just like it's still happening. Of course, those of them in the political arena, a lot is happening. A lot is going on. Different interpretation when it comes to legal issues and all of that. Now, if something had happened and the masses, people went to court, and at the end of the day, the expected result or the outcome that was envisaged was not, gotten. Of course, the judiciary is an arm of government. Am I correct? It's part of government. Now, the executive, it behooves on the executive to now take up the matter forward. But once the apex leadership that is supposed to continue that particular matter didn't do anything, the masses will become handicapped. And that will also take us to, this particular issue I want to review. If you critically watch what transpired, we discover that those you are also expecting to champion the matter at the point that the masses became so weak and powerless. If you critically analyze it, you discover that somehow they are also part of the problem. So who will caution who? Who will now challenge who? Who will now cancel? When you look at it, you discover that the matter died off like that simply because some of the people we're looking up to are also involved.
And even some Nigerians don't have the strength and the will to even continue with some of these cases. Sometimes the process will just make them back off. They get tired. And then you want to take a commissioner to court, people ask, who do you want to take a commissioner? How? Think about it. Ask yourself. Why are you taking a commissioner to court?
But that's, it depends on individual.
If a commissioner... about the mindset of
but
Nigerians.
You see, the kind of mind that I have. Something happened, let's digress just for 1 minute. In my area, and then we're having issues with power, issues with electricity here and there. I told my people I am tired. The only thing I want to hear is that you people are ready, let's take a PhD to court. Sorry that I'm saying this, but it got to that point. You're bringing estimated bill. We don't know how these bills are being estimated. At times will not have light, and then at the end of the month, let us go and challenge this particular. Yes, if there are some policies, some understanding, between the government and that the masses, the consumers, your customers are not aware. Maybe by the time we go to court, some documents that we are not privy to having will now be revealed.
Why are we usually? Why are we usually quiet about certain things like this?
Is mentality now, is mindset.
Since you've taken us to electricity, let's talk about the in-season grid collapse. The federal government on Thursday said it is adopting a holistic approach in addressing recurring incidents of grid collapse in the power sector. The Minister of Power, Adebayo Adelabu, gave the assurance when the Investigative Committee on Frequent Incidents of Grid Collapse submitted its report. The recommendations are practical and reality recommendations that are implementable, and in his words, I'm quoting him, and I believe it will bring an end to the ugly trend. The thing of grid collapse will soon be a thing of the past, the minister assured Nigerians. It was gathered that the short-term recommendations are expected to be implemented within the next 6 months to stabilize the grid. So Nigerians, in the next 6 months, get ready. We have to wait for the next 6 months before we can be assured that the grid will be stabilized. And reports have it that the grid collapsed on Thursday afternoon, the second incident in just 3 days. The frequent reports of the national grid collapse has been a source of concern to many Nigerians. And I told you how Nigerians, like we love to do, have put up a meme where the grid is saying I collapse for a living. A lot is going on with the national grid. In fact, 2 days ago, I was in a business center, and the man told me that he wasn't around when they took the lights. You know the way we used to say they took the lights. And he wasn't around. And the way they told him, that's when they gave him the information that they took lights. Say the way they told him, he feels that the grid has collapsed. I'm like, what is going on? Is this how? So if they take lights in your area now, like we put it, say, national grid again. All right, let's hear from you on this story.
You see, it's quite funny. Let me, before I forget, you know, our politicians, some of them, let me not generalize now, some of our politicians have abused the word and makes the word to lose relevance, assurance. Nigerians have, you know, for the past 2 decades, the word assurance, every government will come and assure. Another one will come and reassure you on the same subject. So the issue of assurance is no longer is no longer a word, but is a word that is supposed to be, you know, that is supposed to have some form of integrity inside of it. But in Nigeria, from the mouth of our politicians, some of them, the word assurance is no longer something that someone can, you know, you can hold onto.
It's no longer something you can be assured of.
At all. And then talking about I was in the office too when that incident happened. I think that should be the first grid collapse. I was in the office, and then all of a sudden we were
among
walking.
these two we just had in 3 days.
Yes.
Okay.
So the next thing I saw was bam, bam.
You
wow.
also thought about
yes,
it.
Immediately I called my people. I said, what's happening? Check, please, of smoke or whatever. I checked my neighbors. The thing, it was a general problem. I said, okay, so the next thing I saw online was that the national grid collapse, you know. So it's a very serious situation, and it's not something that we should be happy.
You think it's taken as seriously as it actually is?
No, it's not. Our government, you're asking if our government...
yes.
No, they are not. That's why I started by saying that the word assurance has been bastardized by our politicians. You see, talking about the solutions or the recommendations that has been given by Minister of Power, that they are things that are implementable, you know, within the next 6 months. And we keep... Is this the first time this thing is happening? That's why there are some subject matters, rather than discussing them, I just prefer solution. The truth is, prior to this time, we have had issues of generator importer, and at some point, that particular policy, you know, the issue of importation of generator was punctured. And then we felt that our power system would have been stabilized. Since last 2 administration till date, if I can remember vividly from His Excellency President Jonathan's administration, the former president of Nigeria before Buhari, the issue of power. In fact, President Jonathan talked so much about power. And if we had continued with that pace, I believe we're not supposed to be where we are today when it comes to the power sector or power supply in Nigeria. So I don't see anything coming out from what the Minister of Power have said. I still want to believe that it's part of what our leaders are doing when it comes to the power sector is intentional. The governor came into power. Within the next 4 to 6 months, there was a transformational, a radical transformation on the power sector. And it was all over the media. People were recording, sharing, and commenting the state. So if a state government can achieve that, a state that has been let me use the word, in darkness for years, and the state government just comes into power, then Nigeria can as well do same. So I want to believe there is something hidden that the masses were not aware. There is something they are benefiting as a result of the epileptic power supply that Nigerians are having. Otherwise, I don't see any reason. Just imagine within an interval of 2 days, national, it's not community, it's national. National grid. In other words, it means another thing. So it's a national, it's a country thing. It's not a state, it's not local government. Nigeria, giant of is something that calls for weeping. And then our...
But we're told that steps are being taken to stabilize it.
When you talk about the issue of steps...
And when you look at some of the things that the minister has mentioned, you find out that it requires a lot. And that is why it's not something that's been done within a day or 2 days. That's why it's going to take 6 months for it to be stabilized.
Let's see what happens at the end of
the... Even the finance that is needed, it's a lot. It takes so much. According to the explanation of the minister, it will take so much to stabilize the grid again.
What kind of fund that will be required that Nigerians cannot gather? We keep borrowing. See,
do we want to contribute?
If it will call for that, but how sincere? How sincere?
Because when you said Nigerians cannot gather, it feels like we're...
No, when I talk about Nigerian, I mean the government.
Maybe everybody just...
No, I mean the government. I mean our leadership.
Okay.
Now, there are some... See, if you're borrowing for certain things, believe me, if Nigerians are seeing results, we will not even cry that we are borrowing. If the fund is so much that we don't have the resources, to make significant improvements on a yearly basis, then let us go and borrow rather than borrowing, to buy, cars and then...
I always tell people whenever they talk about borrowing, nobody ever goes to borrow and tells his people that, oh, we are borrowing for, frivolities. We just want to buy cars and all. That's what we're usually told.
Sure.
We're usually given a template. And even when they're going to borrow, maybe from the World Bank, they provide what they are going to use it for. And nobody ever says we want to just waste this money. So even if we encourage the government to go and borrow for to stabilize electricity, don't you think it's still going to be the same case?
Yeah, from experience, like you said, from experience, one can say it will still be the same case, and that's why it will always point towards good leadership. Once we have good leaders, I don't think there will be misappropriation of fund. Once fund is being released or borrowed or incurred for a particular purpose, there should be a strict monitoring. That fund should be judiciously used for that particular purpose. But where you don't have a reliable government, you don't have a sincere government, you have people that sees that as an opportunity for them to pack their own and go. And when EFCC invite them, they know how to manipulate and do what they can do and then get out of it. You see the same thing still reoccurring. So if, like I said before, if it is an issue of fund, if we can borrow to do certain things that are not core, they are not, fundamental needs of Nigerians, I will boldly recommend and suggest that our government should go and borrow, but it should be judiciously utilized. If it will not be judiciously utilized, no need of putting Nigeria into that particular...
there usually talks of even providing power for certain countries and it's been stable, we have all of those talks, and one would wonder why our case is different.
At times I find it difficult to believe that, but I feel it's true because there has not been any kind of refutal to some of those claims. But it's something that is so shocking that we support some country when it comes to power supply, and here we are, suffering. So it's a resource cost theory. That's what I would just say.
What sector would we even point at and say that Nigeria has really gotten it right with this sector?
I don't think there is. Any,
even your sector, agriculture?
I don't go there even.
I want to go there. That's why I'm here. Even agriculture. I mean, whenever you talk about agriculture, people would feel, some people don't know the importance of agriculture yet.
Yeah.
So they always feel like it's oil. But there have been talks about that being the new oil. That's where the real money is coming from now. So you should think about getting involved in agriculture. But then, talking about that, people would feel like, oh, it doesn't require as much as it might require for us to invest when we talk about other sectors. Is that the case?
Well, agriculture, you're talking about now, right? That's what you're referring to. Agriculture is capital intensive. But one advantage agriculture has over other professional field or department is its ability to absorb virtually everybody. so long as you are ready to work, you can do something. Agriculture has the capacity to give you job. That's why you see any country that wants to grow rapidly, they think of agriculture. Because just one enterprise in agriculture can provide up to, can give job to up to 4, provide job up to 4 lines. You understand that, unlike other sectors. And then, naturally, Nigeria is an agrarian community, it's an agrarian society. So we can excel in agriculture more than we can do in other areas. Once you identify your winning environment, you don't struggle within that particular. Nigeria is struggling because we have left our winning environment, which is agriculture. By creation, God strategically positioned Nigeria to be a food producing nation. But our leaders have not really seen this as something that is was divinely orchestrated. So we are busy chasing shadow. So any day Nigeria comes to that point, few days ago, I was just going through some documentaries online on mushroom production. I was almost weeping. What I saw in China, what they were doing, mushroom production in China. The size of a particular local government, let me use Obiakpo local government, I'm very much conversant with. The size of Obiakpo local government, that premises is too small for what that particular company was using to do just mushroom production. Well packaged, different types of mushroom, and they were exporting, to another country. And this is what we have, all the natural resources, we have all it takes to do that.
Let me quickly ask you this question. I know the government has its own role to play in encouraging agriculture, investing in agriculture. But let's look at private individuals. When we talk about petroleum, people used to say that private individuals are not encouraged to start up refineries. Private individuals are not encouraged. Just talks around that people have. Is that the case for agriculture?
That's not the case. In fact, agric is one field that even as a government employee, as a government worker, as a civil servant, you can invest in.
So why don't we? Let me not say we don't have, because you might tell me now that we have. I say we don't have. But do we have enough private individuals really investing largely in agriculture? Not
enough. But
why?
we have some of them.
Why don't we have it?
In course of our operation, in course of our experience and field work, I've come across some prominent men, that said that they will be willing to invest, but that they have one fear. More than 3 of them has made this remark. And what's the fear? Sincerity. That they don't know anything about the field, but that the way I talk, the way I preach about agriculture and what they have read about agriculture, that agriculture is an area worth investing. But who are the ones to manage? They are scared of the people. They are scared of potential employees. That's the problem. That's the people, the ones I have had interaction with. That's the fear some of them have. And then the issue of risk. Agriculture also has a high risk depending on the enterprise. The fear of losing out is also there. So since some of them are not well grounded in the area, they don't really know how to go about it. And then the major problem is the personnel or the personalities heading the department in the local government or the state or at the national level. Now, if a professional in the field of agriculture, a particular professional field, is the one heading the government parastatal for that particular field, you discover that there will be a whole lot of revelations, insight, trainings, and motivation that will now prompt people to venture into that. But in a situation where you have a commissioner for agriculture, a supervisor for agriculture that does not, permit me to say, the person did not even pass agric science in secondary school. The person never dreamt of, didn't even do any course that is related to agriculture, and that's a professional field, and you put that person to man the office. What do you expect?
Okay, thank you for highlighting some of the challenges, but I'll ask you one more question on that.
Okay.
How are the government policies encouraging private investments?
Yeah, if talking about government policies encouraging private investment, like when I was close to the government as a special assistant to a former commissioner for agriculture, there were some waivers, there were some policies that favored investment in the agricultural sector then. Now, when it comes to issue of subsidy, grant, the percentage of interest rate, the percentage of interest when you're taking a grant or a loan for agriculture is not the same. That was then, but I believe it's still obtainable now.
Okay.
Yes, so those are some of the distance. And then the government also provide some facilities to reduce costs, some improved varieties. You don't just go to buy them, you don't source them yourself. Once you're into the business, government gives you improved varieties from the Ministry of Agriculture and then research centers. Those are made available. And then the government also provide a kind of monitoring. That's the role of the extension agent. There are some, professional, what is it called now? A kind of professional service that will be given to you as a private farmer by the government. Government provide the extension agent that will come to support you. You don't pay. Your farm is having issue. The government provide veterinary services that will come to do that.
Us that's happening now.
Definitely.
That's
now,
encouraging.
It's encouraging, but do you know the challenge? The challenges are there. But in a situation where we're supposed to have, for instance, a community, let me just use community as an example. We're supposed to have, let's say, 2 extension agents in a community, 2 to cover. And then we're having 2 extension agents to cover a local government. So that's the problem. How do you now implement that particular policy? It becomes a serious challenge. So the manpower, engaging the right personnel in the ministry is what is also killing agricultural
Thank you so much, Loveday. You know, there's no how we'll discuss and we'll not discuss agriculture when we have you.
What is left is just for you to start up a
I'll think about it. The federal government of Nigeria has announced free cesarean sessions for women who need them as part of the maternal mortality reduction initiative announced by the Coordinating Minister of Health and Social Welfare, Professor Mohammed Ali. The initiative aims to address Nigeria's high maternal and neonatal mortality rates, which stands at 512 deaths per 141 deaths per 1,000 live births, respectively. Now, they're focusing on enhancing access to quality health care, strengthening private healthcare services, and fostering community involvement. Key stakeholders, including traditional leaders, health commissioners, organizations like the World Health Organization, organizations like the World Bank and Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, have pledged their support. The initiative targets improving maternal and child health nationwide, addressing low uptake of essential health services, and ensuring that no woman dies due to inability to afford a C-section currently. C-section accounts for only 2.7% births in Nigeria, with regional disparities. When we talk about cesarean section and then we mention Nigeria, there's so much. I have 1,000 topics on this right now. But let's just get your thoughts. You're a married man, you have kids, you have experienced this thing. Birth.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've ever, maybe your wife has ever gone through this, I don't know, but that's not the question. So you have an idea, that's what I'm trying to say. Let's get your thoughts on this story.
You know, just going through this story, I had a kind of nostalgic feelings or reaction, because it's like the Minister of Health understood, you know, what used to be my plight.
Oh.
You know, and I was like, wow. Of course, this is not the first policy that Minister of Health has released that I saw to be something that's worth commendation. Let me also seize upon to commend the Minister of Health. He's doing well. He's doing well in that particular sector. Okay. He's doing his best. He's acting like a professional, and some of his policies are people-oriented. You see the policy that has that will have a direct impact on the people. Now, talking about C-section, there, you know, I have my kids, they are product of C-sections.
Oh.
And seeing, you know, the Ministry of Health coming up with this particular policy, I think is something that Nigerians should commend, but it's not all about, you know, I keep making emphasis on this particular area. It's not all about policies. It's not all about policies. For me, implementation is quite key. And that the Ministry of Health has also unveiled this policy or initiative. I think it shouldn't stop at the national level. The state government, the local government should also queue in. And then the primary healthcare centers, or modern, I don't know how they call it now, is it a modern healthcare center, should be well fortified to handle these particular issues. Because if at the end of the day, the community-based hospitals, or of course, the modern hospitals that are supposed to attend to the community, hospitals are not well fortified, then how do we implement this? So that's the area I'm very much concerned about. Talking about the initiative is very okay, is commendable, is something that should be promoted, not just by the government, but of course, there are some philanthropists that even do that. They will just come to a community and then do a kind of initiative like that. I think I have one person in my area that supports that. Once he gets to that point, he will come in fully to support. You know, there has been a lot of casualties as a result of C-section.
Yes, let's talk about that. People who were not able to afford C-section. Recently, I have a friend who just gave birth, and she told me how they were going from hospital to hospital, and how they were calling different amounts. Right now, it is so expensive. That was because of how I knew that it's so expensive to give birth now. Yeah. It's a big deal to give birth now. So they had to, you know, and then some people, they then go to private hospitals, because when it has to be cesarean session, people like to be very careful. Yeah. So let's challenges that Nigerians have been facing, not being able to afford a cesarean session. You said you have that experience already. Yeah. So what was it like when they brought you the bill and told you, oh God, this is your bill?
You know, the fear, what affects most persons, I came to realize that it's not just the C-section, not the operation that they want to go. Oh, that's not where the fear is. Yeah, that's one of the major fears is the fund, or the funding.
That's for the men.
Yes, for the men.
I think that's on your side.
No, even the women at times, because if my wife is aware that, oh, everywhere, all account, we cannot, I'm telling you, we can't boast of, let's say 50,000 or 100,000 naira, and then she's already due for delivery, and all of a sudden, because some of them is just at the point of delivery, they will discover that one or two issues has occurred, and then that's the next option. Now you have probably maybe prepared for normal delivery, and you're hearing hundreds of thousands of, only that one can cause BP. That one can make the woman collapse. So it's not just issue something that has to do with the man alone. It also has a psychological impact on the woman. In fact, my second baby, it got to a point, I don't know if that was the reason my wife was trying to avoid it. I had to take her to the hospital by force. I said, let's go and see the doctor, because by my own calculation, she was due. And she was waiting, attempting, let the thing come. And when we got to the hospital, I opened up. I can be very raw. I said, doctor, what is the problem? I felt by now, my wife, and the way she's behaving, I don't understand. She's proving stubborn. It's like she wants to do it herself. Oh. And the thing is no sign of that. But internally, a lot had already happened. That was how the doctor checked, and the doctor shouted. The next day, she was booked for CS. Now, the point I'm trying to make, maybe she was having that kind of mindset. How will my husband, the other one, we did the same. This one, why like that? Maybe that's the approach God wants to use to save you. If you go through that means you might lose your life. You never can tell.
Not a lot of people know these things. Even now that it has been made free, orientation needs to still be given to Nigerians.
Definitely.
Because it's not in the past. When we talk about people who do not want to carry out, they don't want operation because their religion does not accept it.
They see it like a taboo, like it's an abnormal thing. I think that's where education comes into play. Well, even some persons that are educated, they also have that.
Still have that. When religion comes to play, it's very, very strong.
Yeah, education has a limited role to play. So there is need for reorientation, so long as this particular issue is concerned. But I want to believe, by what the Minister of Health has initiated, believe me, some of those religious bottleneck or hindrances will somehow be reduced. because finance is a major thing. Some person will use religion to cover up, but the actual truth is that the money is not there.
So those men that used to tell their wives that their mothers give birth normally in their family, their lineage, everybody gives birth normally, so you must give birth normally, and then they don't sign. They don't sign the consent form. You're saying the real problem is the money.
Is part of it, and then ignorance too. Ignorance is a major factor, because if you understand what happens, you know, what goes on within the woman system, I don't think you want to expose that. But there has been an improved enlightenment too, because just recently I heard, you know, somebody very close to me, that she opted for CS, that she doesn't want to go through.
By herself?
Yes, that she doesn't want to go through.
Not doctor's recommendation.
I'm telling you that she doesn't want to go through the pain of labor. And I was like, wow. And like a joke, just yesterday the person put to bed. I just got a call from the husband. My wife has given, how? Nobody was aware. She went to the hospital herself, entered. The husband was far away outside the state.
You think that should be taken? Some people have been clamoring that should be taken off. You know, the consent form where the man has to sign his consent before his wife is operated on.
Yes, just like the issue of visa, you know, where you have to...
Yeah, that conversation we had.
That particular it can be likened to this. You know, once the woman is okay. In fact, the consent shouldn't be at the point where the woman is unconscious. In course of antenatal, that's what they call it, right? Once they get to the third trimester, I think I'm still correct.
You're correct.
Once they get to the third trimester, why the woman is still very conscious? If the doctor is suspecting something like that, I don't think it will be out of place for the woman's consent to be given. That particular form can be signed in preparation. So the doctor should prepare a kind of a form that will be in anticipation of what will likely happen.
Because usually at that time, then you hear that the woman lost her life because the husband said no.
No. So that particular policy should be looked into. The woman is an adult. The woman has a right to decide what, even if she's under a man. But some men too can be very funny. So you don't, you know, allow the woman to not just die because the husband refused.
Why do you think they do that? Is it because they feel like the man is the one who would pay for it, so he has to sign if he would be able to pay for this?
Well, I don't know if that's obtainable outside the country. But having grown here, and I'm still living in Nigeria with what I've experienced so far, I feel the Nigerian or African mentality now is the one playing out. Once you are married, the woman 100% is under the man. So anything the man doesn't consent to, the woman has no right to do otherwise. That's what I feel that is playing out. I don't know in developed countries if the husband must, but I doubt. So not necessarily because it's the man that will pay. I believe the hospital and the doctors, they are scared of what the man will likely do if they do something contrary to the man's
So you're
decision.
suggesting that it should be signed early enough before that time?
Yes, before.
But then you have not still talked about the part where it's the man that has to sign that consent.
Well, for those men that find it difficult, is an individual thing. It should be optional if the man wants to sign. The woman is the one carrying the baby. The man has limited little or no much role to play when it comes to CS. Like during my last child, my wife had issues and the BP was a bit high. She came out. The doctor said I should talk to her. You know, I was working on her. I said, are you not ready? She said she would do it. At some point, she said she cannot. That day went. Then I worked on her, talked on her. Late in the night, she came to her senses and decided. The truth is, it is the woman thing, like 70 to 80%. Once the woman says, doctor, I'm not doing CS, even if the husband likes, because the doctor might do that and the woman lives will go in for it. Except the doctor discovered that the woman is doing that unconsciously too. The woman is doing that, then the doctor can now make use of the man's information from the man, and then there's a situation where they can now, do they call it injection or what, you know, to now make the woman go asleep. If it's as a result of fear, then the man's stand can prevail. Otherwise, it is the woman thing. So the doctor should take what the woman's take very seriously the woman's stand when it comes to CS.
Thank you so much, Love Day. Actually, the first man I'm hearing this from. We'll go on a short break, and after that, the show continues. Please stay with us on ATN.
From the lines across the ocean to the land beyond the mountains, through the Sahara, we bring honest pop news, live analysis, expert discussions on trending stories in politics, business, socio-economy, sports, and documentaries. So catch all the updates on the happenings around the globe. Stay focused on the fact today. Only on ATN.
Every day our lives are changed by history.
We are one people, all of us.
Leaders, politics,
Nobody's ambition is what the blood.
I have fought a very family.
natural occurrence, war, and the world economy.
I belong to everybody, and I belong to nobody.
ATN covers it all on ATN Politics today.
People into the country illegally. That is amazing.
Honorable
You human trafficker.
Honorable
You're a human.
They are not picking our calls. They made up their minds.
So no agreement with the EU, but
Big thanks to you for staying with us. Let's move to our next story. The Deputy Speaker of the House of Representatives, Benjamin Kalu, has urged the National Commission for Refugees, Migrants and Internally Displaced Persons to provide comprehensive data on IDPs in Nigeria and neighboring countries affected by natural disasters. During a meeting with Federal Commissioner Tijani Ahmed in Abuja, Kalu emphasized that displacement is not only caused by conflict but also by climate-induced events such as flooding and erosion. He highlighted the importance of having detailed reports to guide budget planning and suggested the establishment of an intervention fund for proper needs analysis. Kalu also called for an increased budgetary allocation to the Commission and expressed concerns that the current budget of approximately 1.6 billion naira was insufficient. He requested the report be submitted within 2 weeks for parliamentary review and budget consideration. Ahmed, in response, pledged to meet the deadline and appealed for increased funding to support the Commission's work. When he talked about funding to be provided for internally displaced persons, thank God for the other part of the story that I got to clarify when they talked about the funding not being enough. Because that statement by the Reps Deputy already sounded like there was no provision for funding, and that should be made. You know, that should be provided currently. But let's bring you in on this story.
That's the exact point I also want to pick up the analysis from.
Okay.
You know, the point where the Deputy Speaker talked about issue of establishing intervention fund is shocking to hear that, you know, something that has to do with natural disaster. What kind of country, what kind of system of government are we running? Natural disaster, and we're talking about the establishment of intervention fund for internally displaced persons and the refugees. By that statement, if I'm very much in line with that particular statement, if I understood the lines very well, that means there has not been
that's what it sounded like.
There has not been an established...
This is a country that have been having cases of flood,
of natural disaster for the past only God knows how many decades. And in 2024, we're hearing issue of establishment of intervention fund for internally displaced persons and the refugees. Is not something that we should...
Even without being told, when you see the state of some of these IDP camps, you would ask yourself if there's anything like intervention fund for these people. Because when you go there and interview them, when you hear from them, some of the things they say, when you see how they struggle to eat, and the states of the children that are there, the environment, the tents that they even have constructed, all of these things will ask. Some health workers sometimes will go there to carry out free tests, give out drugs and all of that, and they come back with reports on the state of these IDPs.
Yeah, like I said, it's this particular scenario or story will still take us back to what we keep saying, that it appears in Nigeria our politicians usually invest on things that directly impact them. You know, the internally displaced person, I doubt if you can see a prominent politician's son or family member being internally displaced. So why should they talk about it? Why should they, you know, push in fund or establish a kind of intervention fund for that? If not for the singular reason that their people can hardly be found among those persons. Why won't there be fund for that? Well, all the same, that's where we are. And then let's also commend the Deputy Speaker. You know, there are so many things that goes on in this country that are behind the cameras. They are behind the scene. The government don't like just bringing them up. They like just pampering them, you know, 1.6 billion. He was very much specific. When I also heard the amount that, you know, was earmarked, that from a previous budget, 1.6 billion for internally displaced persons and refugees. And you ask yourself, that's for 1 year, or that money will run for 1 year till the next budget. Where would that
what are you saying is too small, or you're saying it's too much?
It's small. It's very small, considering the nature of course, you know, that fund is not for a particular zone. That particular amount mentioned is not for a particular, it's for the nation. And we have this incident all over. I don't think we have up to 10. I'm not sure.
And then we hear of individuals siphoning 2 trillion.
I'm to come to that
2
point.
trillion naira, one person.
I'm to come to that point.
And then a whole lot, thousands of people are going to share
1.6 billion. These persons, their businesses will be affected, their residential quarters will be affected, their health will be affected. Where will this 1.6 billion take them to? Is it to even, for instance, those of them that are into farming activities, once this flood comes, it wipes off everything. That fund, is it to take care of their business? Is it to take care of their residential quarter, change their home appliances, rebuild their structures? Is it to take care of their health? So the fund is quite insignificant. But do you know what my major concern, even with that particular amount? Believe me, that same 1.6 billion that has been mentioned, that has been unveiled, not up to 1 billion naira will be invested for this particular purpose. Now, from experience, yes, believe me, that is my assessment. Because if the 1.6 billion, in as much as we say that is insignificant, if it is also being invested, we will see it. Look at the living standard of the people. Look at the environment where they found themselves. 1.6 billion is small, but it's not also a very small, it's not too small. So I am drawing this conclusion based on what the eyes can see. If indeed my analysis is wrong, no problem. The ministry, the relevant agency can as well make public how these 1.6 billions are being spent on.
I'm saying it's not enough. They're asking for more.
Definitely. Now, they are asking for more. I am also telling you that even the 1.6 billion that we are saying, I'm also joining my voice with theirs to say that it's not enough. But I am also saying, because of what we have been seeing and what we have been experiencing, once you take a critical analysis and do a kind of auditing on how this 1.6 billion is being managed, you discover that not up to 1 billion naira, you know, is usually invested in that particular ministry or for, used to address the issue of internally displaced persons and refugees. Otherwise, they can as well make public. It's public fund. They should make public how this money. You see some irrelevant things that are not called for that will be captured.
All right. So let's look at your recommendations now.
Yeah, my recommendation is one, just like the Deputy Speaker has rightly pointed out, there should be need for an improvement. There should be need for an improvement, and then not just to earmark a particular amount. There should be a detailed budgetary where so and so amount will be used for structure. I don't think it's too much. This thing has happened over and over. Nigerians can
over the tents that what kind of structure now? Physical structure, or you're talking about the arrangement?
No, the system. The system
okay, the
now.
System.
Yeah, and then physical structure is also part of it. Yeah.
Sometimes when I see the pictures, I'm asking, does it mean that it's not possible for actual structures to be made?
Very much possible, but
why
we are believing
having tents in IDP camps?
Our leaders or the system believe that miracle will happen.
Or is it because they just these people are just supposed to be there for some time and then they leave?
But
then we have other people coming in and the camps are crowded.
Exactly. That, like I told you, they feel that miracle will happen. No, this year there will be no natural disaster. In fact, we have prayed enough for the next 5-10 years.
I don't think anybody in his right senses will think about
that. But from what you see,
look at what has happened in Nigeria, the flooding and all that. We even had foreign individuals coming in to help.
To assist. So part of my recommendation is the physical structure now. I don't think it will be out of place if the national will begin to look at having identified those critical areas, those natural disaster prone areas, especially talking about flood now. You set up a structure. Look for a place, set up a structure. Just target internally displaced persons' home. Whenever this thing happens, I think a structure that can accommodate a yard, a compound that can accommodate thousands of persons. Prepare it and keep it there. Once that is done, the state government, the local government can now run the maintenance of that particular place, pending when there will be an issue, disaster incident.
Another disaster,
yes,
natural disaster.
That's one of them. Not when it happens every year. We keep bringing in tents.
Are these people just supposed to just go there and stay? Because sometimes that's what it looks like. Is this not supposed to be like a process for them to get rehabilitated and then reignited in the system, as in the society?
That's the idea. That's the idea. That's how it should be. But you know, in some part of the country, because of the issue of insecurity, in fact, insecurity has even
some of
displaced.
them have cried of insecurity even in the camps.
Yeah. Okay. That's also another.
But quickly, let's look at Governor Chukwuma Soludo of Anambra speaking at the Veritas University's 13th Convocation Lecture in Abuja. He emphasized that Nigeria is undergoing a significant shift with the removal of subsidies under President Bola Tinubu's administration. The lecture was titled, "Let us make a new deal for Nigeria. Explore strategies for tackling the nation's challenges." Soludo pointed out that subsidies fuel, foreign exchange, electricity, everything. He described this period as a muddling through phase that demands careful management. And Soludo actually benefited from free education in his youth. He noted that while early military regimes invested in education, current conditions require a new social contract. He called for a pragmatic national plan akin to the U.S. Marshall Plan, focusing on public works and financial reforms to transform Nigeria. He has highlighted some of the issues that we are facing in Nigeria and why it is a tough time and a tough one.
Yeah, you know, the issue of fuel subsidy removal has been, for the past 1 year, it has been a major point of lamentation or emphasis by Nigerians and some analysts.
Even electricity, which he mentioned.
Yeah. But for me, like what Professor Soludo said, that the elite, which has been benefiting, of course, the urban elite,
yes,
prior to the subsidy removal, for me, I don't see it to capture current realities. If it has been the urban elite that has been enjoying, and then probably because of that the subsidy was now removed, how has the removal impacted the majority of Nigerians?
Everybody.
How has the removal of fuel subsidy positively enhanced our livelihood? How has it positively moved us from where we used to be to another level for the past 1 year?
It actually moved us to another level.
On the positive axis or negative axis? I want you to say something now.
No, we're moved. There was no. It's not.
Okay.
It's not the way it used to be.
We're not where we used
Changed,
to be. Yeah,
yes.
I'm talking about the positive axis now. Now,
okay.
I've not seen any positive shift. Rather, we are seeing kind of tight economy, a retrogressive move, the household livelihood activities being, so tight that it becomes so difficult for, individual and household to survive as a result of the subsidy removal. Now, I am not still losing hope. I'm very much optimistic, but the point is, if a policy was initiated or is being initiated, and for a period of 1 year, we cannot, practically pinpoint and say this is the positive thing this particular policy has caused. I think there is need for people to lament. There is need for people to question that particular policy and the reality of that particular policy. So, is a major challenge.
He gave some recommendations I want us to quickly touch. He talked about the minimum wage laws, the tax reforms, and some other things that he mentioned. He highlighted legislative progress, such as the minimum wage laws, tax reforms, the cash transfer plans, stressed the need for coordinated efforts between federal and state governments. These were his recommendations when he gave that address. Yeah. Thank you so much for your thoughts on the show today. We appreciate you, first of all, journeying down here, and then your amazing analysis.
Thank you very much, Ini, for having me.
All right, we must say big thanks to you. I hope you had an amazing time, because I did here. We'll have this again tomorrow, same time on Atlantic Television Network, 8 a.m. I'll be here with you. Okay, tomorrow is Saturday, so it's not going to happen tomorrow, but then we're going to have it next week, okay? My name is Enidoye Jackson. Always remember that we are open for advert placement, news and events coverage, personality, society and political interviews, products, service promotion and commercials. And remember to stay connected with us on all of our ATN socials, Facebook and YouTube at Atlantic Television Network. On Instagram and TikTok, we're Atlantic TV Network 1. And on X, we are Atlantic TV Net. You can also watch us live on our website at www.atlanticnetwork.tv. Peace and unity are the pathways to progress. Thank you once again for watching. Coming up next is Open Conversation. Stay with us.
From the line across the ocean to the land beyond the mountains, through the Sahara